this is a great opportunity for you to kind of set the scene and do your best to take charge of who you want to be there. You as the strategic manager should own that conversation and guide everybody through.
This week on Tuesday Talks with Toomey, Dan explains why your first meeting with an IDN Contract Manager is the moment to ask for the right people at the table, even if it feels uncomfortable.
So Dan, obviously we're not in the log cabin this week, in this beautiful neighborhood of yours though, and glad to be back with you. You just came off the road from the IDN Summit, and you produced some content around that last week, but can you tell me again about that meeting, who it's for, and what you got out of it?
Yeah, I think if you haven't been, it's a great opportunity for networking, but it's for national accounts, it's for health systems, it's for sales executives to go to and really hear topics that are happening in the industry today. This was one of the biggest meetings I had, so if you were there, I hope you enjoyed every bit of it, because I thought the content was very relevant. Tariffs, AI, supply chain, value analysis, all was covered. And it's a great opportunity to network and meet new people, just peers in the industry, strategic networking, and ask them how they're navigating a hurdle you're having, or do they have the same structure as you, or different things they've done for aligning their IDN strategic team, or even compensation, right? It's just a good way to network people to understand what else is happening in the industry. So yeah, it was great meeting. Things that I got out of it, right, was again, everyone's asking about the tariffs. That was a very big topic there. And each week, something else comes up from, Capitol Hill and things that are happening, but how it's going to impact us. But I think the overall marching message was, communicate that with your customer. Communicate what hurdles and strategies and concerns you have, so that they know where you're coming from. Don't just walk in the door and say, hey, you heard about the tariffs, we're raising price 30%, right? That's the last thing that anyone wants to hear. And the GPOs are very clear on it. We'll work with you. We'll talk through it with you. Let's come up and see actually what happens before you execute something. Maybe there's a way we can work through it. But if you don't have that relationship, you don't try to, they don't want to hear that you're just raising price, right? That was a very big message, I think, that was set across the tone there. And other things, just meeting with other companies that are trying to navigate GPO, IDN, contracting, understand value analysis process. Right? Do I have the right structure? I have a GPO team, I have an IDN team. They're not working together very well with the sales team. How can I align that better, and what's the right strategy to get everybody on the same page so that we're penetrating our contracts efficiently, maximizing our efforts and picking the right accounts. And then the other one was I've had a contract for several months or years, and I feel like have I maxed it out, or if I exhausted all of my efforts, is it worth having anymore? I'm not really seeing the growth I want. Right? And we talked through strategies around, there's a lot of things that the GPO offers, not just in the contracting manager, but in their other programs, or in data analysis, or support with papers and different things that they could do to help promote your product, that I think a lot of companies don't realize that are there too. So there were some of the things I had behind the scenes conversations with, and then really it's just that strategy of how do we get in front of our customers faster.
Sounds like a great meeting. Today I wanted to ask you about, if I've got my first meeting with an IDN, with a contract manager, who should I bring in with me? What's that meeting like?
Yeah, congratulations! You got the meeting you want with that contract manager, right? And this is at the IDN level, so at the health systems, who you've been working with, and you want to make a good first impression. But what I will say is, before I answer, is who do I want to bring in, and how the flow of that should go, is this is a great opportunity for you to kind of set the scene and do your best to take charge of who you want to be there. Getting the meeting's great, and I trust me. I'm one of those people that I don't want to ask too much out of the gate, right? I got the meeting, so don't ask for too much. But it's okay to say, hey, I really want to make sure this is a very well-rounded, efficient meeting. We get the right information. So I want to bring the right people with me. Not overwhelm them. We're not bringing the whole team. But is there any chance that you could have someone from supply chain there, someone from value analysis there, and maybe that's the clinical person too. And then of course, if there's other people that are tied into the contracting decision making with that contract manager, could they be there, right? That's 3 or 4 people from them, and then then you'll know how you want to address, prepare, who you want to bring in, because again, you're coming in to sell your company, you're coming in to sell your value prop. You want to make sure that you've got the right people to hear all angles of it, and it can spark different conversations around how you can be a true industry partner with them. So if you're kind of helping set the scene of it, here's how I think we get the most out of our meeting. I would love to see if any of these 4 people can come, right? So contracting, value analysis, supply chain, clinical, and that could be an overlap with value analysis. Then also allows you to say, hey, I'm going to bring in the right people with me, so we can have a really good, robust conversation and get things started.
Yeah. So let's say, no, those folks can't come. It's just you and me, or it's just me that can make this meeting. Are you still taking it? Are you going to try to wait for a future meeting?
Yeah, you're always going to take the meeting, right? You're never going to turn it down with the opportunity to get in front of those folks for the first time. And that, look, I think more than often you're going to have them say, listen, this is our first meeting. I'm taking this because I really want to learn more about your company and you, and you're starting a relationship, right? You're starting to build a foundation with them. So they might not want to bring in a bunch of people yet before they really know what the next steps would be. But that's also why it's important to understand how that contracting process works. Like, is that contract manager responsible for just a piece of the puzzle? Do they all share, all their counterparts, do they share in a budget? Do they have their own goal? Like, they got to save $5 million or this year, or they got to save $50 million as a group. But if you can understand a little bit of that before you go in, then you have an idea of how your flow of your conversation to go. But so as far as take the meeting and who are you going to take with you? For me, first time meetings, I always take in the sales rep for sure, right? I want the sales rep to go with me. It does a couple of things. It builds a relationship with the contract manager, but it allows that rep and contract manager to know each other, and you can talk through who the champions are, rules of engagement in the hospital, do's and don'ts that the contract manager wants you to do or not do and talk to, right? So we're kind of following some of the rules, but it allows that, I think it builds trust with your rep that, hey, you're part of this process, right? I need you to be fully engaged with me on here, because there's going to be times I'm going to need you to go talk to, clinicians, buyers, materials management, value analysis at different hospitals. But in the meantime, I can communicate all that back to the contract manager. And now that you've met them, right, and they know who you are, we all trust each other a little bit more in that conversation. And then the other person that not always easy, but I would love to be there for the first meeting, depending on the product or the technology, is the product manager. Product manager can bring a wealth of knowledge of experiences from other health systems, from other marketing campaigns, from market knowledge, and if some feature and benefit things come up, then yeah, the rep probably knows enough. But having the product manager there who lives and breathes that product is also a little bit more passionate about it, and so they're excited, right? And you're bringing the team with you to show, hey, we're here to support you. Right? And we're here to listen to you and learn from you, and how does this all work together? And not everybody's rattling off a bunch of comments, and you gotta set that scene very well, how the flow of the conversation will go. And you as the strategic manager should own that conversation and guide everybody through, right? But it brings a small little group to the table, even if it's just one person, to really give a great introduction to who you are as a company and what the next steps after that should be, and everybody has their takeaways and are very clear on it.
Yeah. So internally, with your field sales and your product manager, if they can come, how are you setting the stage for this meeting? What are you telling them? And then after that, I'll ask you how you're preparing in general.
Okay. Sorry, ask me again, sorry.
Yeah, so how do you set the stage? You're leading the meeting, but how do you tell the field sales rep and your product manager what their roles are in the meeting? How do you?
So always, I hate. No one loves more meetings, right? But you definitely have a call before you go in and say, hey, here's our expectations. This meeting is we need to find out what their supply chain system looks like, what their distribution network looks like. What other product areas does this person manage, and then we want to know. Maybe some other hurdles they're having, or some of the inner politics of the hospital, and what that value analysis process looks like, and what the whole sourcing process looks like. So I'm going to ask a lot of the questions, right? I'm going to guide through some of this. Don't don't have the need to just jump in and answer questions, right? And it's not that you don't want to hear from everybody. You want to keep the flow going back and forth, and say, hey, listen, there's going to become a part where we might talk about things that are already going well in the hospital, and then I'll say to the rep, hey, why don't you talk about your experience over at St. John's East, and let them talk about how the interactions were and how the product was used, or Dr. saw it and really wanted it, and here's why, right? There's a clinical value behind it. And then if we want, and then you can say, hey, listen, maybe this part we'll talk about a little bit more of the market size of this technology, and then I'll let you say, hey, this is what we're working on a couple other facilities, right? Let the product manager chime in, or we're working on a clinical study that really supports this, and this would be great for you to be part of or to learn from. We love your feedback on it too, right? So then you bring them into you can bring that IDN team into the conversation of, you could be part of this, something else we're working on, right? They love studies, they love to be part of it, get their name out there. So anyway, there's some little things you could do to set the scene, have a kind of a flow of the conversation you want to have, and say, hey, at this point, I'll tell you to talk. And I know that sounds kind of rough, but it's the reality of it. Right. Or, hey, it's a really good question. Scott, why don't you answer that one, right? So just make sure you set the scene that you're going to have the lead of the conversation. Yeah,
so that's clear. Like making sure that you're the quarterback and they kind of know a little bit about what you're going in to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So thanks for that. So in addition to your internal huddle and how your team is going to manage the meeting, what are you doing in preparing for a meeting with a contract manager in general?
Yep. Well, I'm going to look at the know before you go. So I on my website I have a questionnaire, an IDN readiness questionnaire, and things you should be asking in your conversations, and it breaks it down to before, during, and after. But that before part's really important, right? So what are your current sales? Not only at the IDN level, but what facilities are using your product or products. So what's your footprint? What is maybe your footprint in the current area, right? So are competing hospitals using? And then I'm looking at what our inventories look like. So I'm working with supply chain to understand how many days on hand we have. All right, so because you want to build that rapport with them up front that we've got plenty of product on hand. Or if we don't, and we're preparing to do this, what's the ramp up time, right? So hey, listen, if you decide to move forward on this, we need 30, 40, 50 days, whatever it is, to get enough inventory on to take this on. So trial, no problem. Ramp up time to go live, what that may look like, right? So you can kind of set the scenes of that they said, hey, listen, we're in dire need of this product, and you come and substitute next week if the trial goes well. You can be honest and say, I can't, and you should be honest and say I can't, but I can in 30 days. Like, is that enough time? So anyway, that's some of the things that I would be prepared with internally, that I would talk to my team to make sure I'm ready for that meeting.
Great. And you said that some of these things are listed out on a document on your website, mm-hmm. and that's just a download someone can get.
Yeah, honestly, if you go onto really the website, and most of the tabs at the bottom, it says subscribe here, and that'll give you, once you submit it and you confirm your email, and then you get a PDF right away, and it'll give you about 20 questions that you should be asking every day at the IDN level to help you, to navigate that contracting conversation so that you understand how they work and what they need from you, and then things that you can help put the pieces back together to make a better proposal.
Great. Okay. Thank you.